INFJs move through the world differently. They're rare, private, and deeply aware of things most people miss. Because of that, normal people, those who don't think or feel as deeply, often see INFJs in ways that don't match who they really are. To others, the INFJ can appear mysterious, confusing, or even intimidating, when in truth they're just being themselves. People are used to predictable behavior. They understand personalities that are loud, easy to read, or socially active. The INFJ doesn't fit that pattern. They mix warmth with distance, empathy with mystery, and silence with awareness. It's a balance that doesn't make sense to most people, so they label it in the only way they can: strange, intense, or different. To normal people, the INFJ's aura feels unfamiliar. Their calm energy seems deeper than it should be. Their quiet presence feels heavy with meaning. They don't need to say much, but their silence makes others notice them. Some find it fascinating. Others find it unsettling. The truth is, the INFJ doesn't try to stand out. Their difference is natural. They read the room before speaking, sense emotions before they're expressed, and speak with a kind of honesty that breaks through small talk. But because most people aren't used to being seen that clearly, they misread the INFJ's motives. In this video, we'll look at 6 ways normal people really see the INFJ, the perceptions that follow them through life. Some of these views are flattering. Some are unfair. But all of them reveal one simple truth: the INFJ's energy doesn't blend in, and that alone changes how the world reacts to them. Way number 1. They see you as quiet but intense. Most people notice the INFJ's quietness first. They don't speak to fill silence, they don't force their presence, and they don't compete for attention. But under that calm surface, there's something different, an intensity that makes others look twice. The INFJ can sit silently in a group and still feel like the most focused person in the room. This quiet intensity confuses people. They expect silence to mean weakness or insecurity, but the INFJ's silence feels intentional. It's not empty, it's concentrated. They listen closely, watch carefully, and seem to understand things without asking. That kind of attention makes others nervous because it's rare. Normal people can sense when someone is fully present, and INFJs are always present. They notice details others miss: body language, tone, hesitation. They don't look at people, they look into them. That gaze alone can make someone feel seen in a way they didn't agree to. It's not aggression, but it carries power. People often describe INFJs as calm but intense. They feel something unspoken around them, like the INFJ is aware of things they're not saying. This creates curiosity but also tension. Some people are drawn to it. Others back away because it feels too honest. The INFJ's quietness amplifies everything else about them. When they finally speak, people listen. Their words sound considered, sometimes profound, because they're never careless with speech. This mix of restraint and depth makes others label them as mysterious or intimidating, even when the INFJ means no harm. To normal people, that intensity feels unnatural. They can't understand how someone can be so quiet yet so powerful. They assume something must be hidden, a secret, an agenda, or deep emotion. What they don't realize is that the INFJ's intensity isn't effort. It's presence. They simply feel everything deeply, and that energy speaks louder than words ever could. Way number 2. They notice your insight and say, "You're too much." INFJs have an unusual kind of awareness. They notice things people don't say, emotions people try to hide, and patterns that others don't even know they're creating. This gift makes them incredibly insightful, but it also makes people uncomfortable. When the INFJ comments on something that cuts too close to the truth, others don't know how to respond. They might say, "You read too much into things," or "You're overthinking." What they really mean is, You notice something I wasn't ready to admit. Normal people often see the INFJ's insight as intimidating. They can feel like the INFJ sees right through them, their excuses, fears, and hidden motives. It's not that the INFJ is judging them, they're just observing honestly. But to someone used to hiding behind appearances, that level of awareness feels invasive. The INFJ often speaks with clarity that others mistake for confrontation. They'll describe something emotional with calm logic, or call out inconsistencies gently but directly. People aren't used to that. Most prefer comfort over truth. So when an INFJ says something real, it shakes them. For example, an INFJ might tell a coworker, "You seem unhappy lately," or ask a friend, "Are you sure this relationship makes you feel safe?" These questions sound simple, but they cut straight to the core. And because the INFJ's tone is usually soft and matter-of-fact, the impact feels even stronger. This is why many people say the INFJ is too much. They don't mean emotional, they mean perceptive. The INFJ doesn't play social games, and that honesty reveals what others are trying to hide. It's not intentional. It's instinct. Over time, INFJs learn to soften their delivery, but they never lose their insight. It's both a strength and a burden. It allows them to connect deeply with the right people and unintentionally scare off the ones who aren't ready to face themselves. Way number 3. They admire your authenticity but worry you're unreachable. To normal people, the INFJ often feels genuine but distant. They see someone who doesn't fake emotions, doesn't chase approval, and doesn't conform easily. This honesty earns admiration. People trust INFJs because they don't pretend. But that same authenticity can make them seem unreachable, like they live on a different emotional level. Most people wear masks to blend in. They adapt to situations, adjust their tone, and hide their true feelings to avoid conflict. The INFJ doesn't do that easily. When they speak, they mean it. When they care fully. When something feels wrong, they can't hide it. That level of sincerity feels rare, and rare things often intimidate people. Normal people often describe the INFJ as real, deep, or different. They admire how the INFJ seems to know themselves. But at the same time, they feel a gap, like they can't fully reach or understand that level of awareness. The INFJ's self-containment creates mystery. Sometimes people mistake that mystery for superiority. They assume the INFJ thinks they're above others, when in reality, they're just protecting their energy. The INFJ doesn't open up easily, and when they do, it's to a very small circle. To outsiders, that guarded nature looks like distance. This perception can create mixed reactions. Some people are drawn to it. They find the INFJ's calm authenticity magnetic. Others feel uncomfortable around it because it highlights their own lack of honesty. Being around someone who never performs makes them aware of how often they do. The INFJ doesn't set out to be unreachable. They just prefer depth over exposure. They reveal their thoughts slowly, with trust, and never for attention. That patience makes normal people restless. They want to know more but don't understand that trust takes time. To the INFJ, authenticity is natural. To others, it's mysterious. And in a world that rewards surface-level charm, a person who lives from the soul can easily look unreachable, even though they're simply real. Way number 4. They misinterpret your solitude as mystery or moodiness. To most people, constant connection equals normal. They talk, share, post, and fill silence with noise. When an INFJ pulls away, it doesn't fit the pattern. The INFJ disappears into quiet, and people don't know what to make of it. They assume something must be wrong. The truth is, solitude is not loneliness for the INFJ, it's maintenance. It's how they process everything they've absorbed from the world. Their minds are constantly active, analyzing emotions, interactions, and meaning. To stay balanced, they need space to recharge and think. But because normal people associate silence with sadness, they read this need for space as moodiness or rejection. Someone might say, "You've been quiet lately. Are you mad at me?" Or, "You disappeared. Did something happen?" The INFJ often feels misunderstood in these moments. Their quietness isn't withdrawal from people they care about, it's retreat into peace. This misunderstanding happens often in relationships. The partner of an INFJ might think their alone time means disinterest or avoidance, when in reality, it's how they regain emotional clarity. INFJs love deeply, but they also love quietly. Their affection isn't measured by words or presence, it's measured by consistency. But normal people sometimes mistake that steady, calm love for emotional distance. Friends can also misread this pattern. When the INFJ stops socializing or messaging, people think they've changed or become cold. But what's really happening is the INFJ's inner world has reached its limit. They need to rest from empathy the way others rest from work. Over time, INFJs learn to explain this to others, but even then, not everyone understands. Solitude carries mystery to people who fear being alone. They can't imagine choosing silence voluntarily, so they fill the gap with assumptions. This is why the INFJ often seems mysterious to others. Their solitude creates space, and space invites curiosity. People don't know what they're thinking, and that unknown feels powerful. It's not meant to intimidate, but it often does. The INFJ's peace looks like distance to those who don't know peace themselves. Their silence feels heavy because it holds awareness. But to the INFJ, it's not withdrawal, it's alignment. Way number 5. They feel you set a high bar and feel judged by your standards. INFJs live by inner values that don't bend easily. They hold honesty, empathy, and integrity as non-negotiable, and they expect the same in others, not because they're demanding, but because they can't live any other way. This creates quiet tension around them. Normal people sense this standard even when it's never spoken. They feel that the INFJ doesn't tolerate dishonesty or manipulation. The INFJ rarely calls people out directly, but their presence alone reveals when something's off. That silent moral compass can make others uncomfortable. People might say, "You're so serious," or "You expect too much." What they really mean is, "You make me aware of what I avoid." The INFJ doesn't set rules for others. They simply live by their own. But that integrity shines like a mirror, showing others their inconsistencies. This happens in friendships, workplaces, and families. The INFJ might quietly step away from gossip, unethical behavior, or emotional games. Others interpret that withdrawal as judgment. They think the INFJ believes they're better than everyone else. In truth, the INFJ just doesn't want to waste energy on what feels wrong. Because INFJs rarely confront directly, people fill the silence with guilt. They imagine judgment that was never expressed. This is one reason why INFJs often intimidate others without trying. Their calm self-discipline exposes the lack of it in others. Over time, this dynamic can isolate the INFJ. They want harmony, not distance, but their integrity naturally separates them from people who thrive on shortcuts or surface living. Still, they wouldn't trade that peace for acceptance. The INFJ's standards are not about control, they're about alignment. They hold themselves accountable and hope others will do the same. But many people see that quiet strength and feel small in its presence. To them, the INFJ's high bar feels like silent judgment. What they don't see is that the INFJ is judging themselves just as strongly, always striving to be honest and kind. So when normal people feel intimidated by the INFJ's standards, it's not because the INFJ is demanding, it's because truth always feels heavy to those who avoid it. Way number 6. They see you as kind and caring. until you walk away. At first, most people see the INFJ as warm, loyal, and endlessly patient. They're the friend who listens, the coworker who helps, the partner who understands. Their kindness feels unconditional, until suddenly it's not. When an INFJ reaches their emotional limit, they don't explode or argue. They simply leave. They go quiet, step back, and disappear without warning. To people who took their empathy for granted, this feels shocking. They can't understand how someone so caring could turn cold overnight. But it's not sudden for the INFJ. It's the result of boundaries ignored over time. They have given chance after chance, hoping things will change. When nothing does, they make the hardest choice they can, to protect their peace. And when they make that decision, it's final. Normal people often react with disbelief. They'll say, "I thought you were nice," or "you changed." What they don't realize is that the INFJ's kindness never disappeared. It just stopped being accessible to those who abused it. This sudden withdrawal is confusing because INFJs don't make a scene. They don't list reasons or justify their exit. They simply vanish from emotional spaces that no longer feel safe. That quiet ending leaves people unsettled. It forces them to face how they treated the INFJ, and that self-reflection can be painful. Those who never valued the INFJ's presence only understand it once it's gone. The warmth, support, and patience they relied on are suddenly missing, replaced by silence that speaks louder than words. To the INFJ, walking away isn't revenge, it's survival. They can't keep pouring from an empty cup. Once their trust is broken, they protect their energy completely. Normal people, who are used to constant engagement and noise, find this level of finality difficult to comprehend. The truth is, the INFJ's kindness always has depth, and depth always has limits. When it's no longer appreciated, they don't argue. They move on. And that quiet ending, to those who never saw it coming, feels shocking. When normal people talk about INFJs, they often use the same words: mysterious, deep, intense, complicated. They're not wrong, but they're only seeing the surface of something much larger. What feels strange or intimidating about the INFJ is simply the result of living with emotional depth in a world that rewards simplicity. The INFJ isn't trying to be mysterious. They're just private. They aren't trying to be intense. They're just deeply present. They aren't distant or judgmental. They simply have standards and values they refuse to betray. Everything about them that feels different to others is just authenticity in its purest form. To normal people, that honesty is both fascinating and frightening. They see someone who doesn't play along with the usual social scripts. Someone who listens more than they talk, who feels without needing attention, who walks away without a scene. In a world that often values loudness over depth, that kind of calm power stands out. But the INFJ doesn't need to apologize for being different. Their quiet strength, emotional awareness, and moral clarity are not flaws. They're the very qualities the world lacks. The reason others misunderstand them is because they sense something rare. Someone who sees through the noise, who doesn't get lost in pretending, who values truth more than approval. Understanding how others see them helps INFJs move through the world with more peace. They no longer have to take people's reactions personally. When someone calls them too much, they can remember it really means, "I don't understand you yet." When someone says they're cold, they can remember it means, "I'm not used to quiet honesty." The INFJ's role isn't to blend in, it's to stay true. Their presence will always be felt, whether or not it's understood. And that's the point. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more depth. So if you're an INFJ, remember this: your difference is your strength. The people who misunderstand you now are simply reacting to what they don't recognize in themselves. The ones who are meant for you will see beyond the surface, appreciate your stillness, and meet you in your depth. You don't have to change the way people see you. You only have to live in a way that stays real, calm, and aligned with who you are. That's how the INFJ's quiet energy stops being confusing and starts being unforgettable.